And what this customer told me that really stood out was we have to invest in these robots to keep up with the demand. There's not enough people. And even if we did hire them, training them has become a challenge because we haven't been able to document our processes, our procedures, and have a standard training mechanism to onboard people. So training's a big thing right now.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Kerrie Jordan. Welcome to our show where we talk with industry leaders who are shaping the future of manufacturing. Today, I'm speaking with Josh Roberts, Regional Vice President of Sales at Epicor, which is, of course, where I work as well and sponsors this show. So I'm excited for what we have in store for you. But first, we'll do a quick background as usual. So Epicor is a business technology software company, and this organization is on a mission to partner with the world's hardest working businesses to make them as successful as possible. Now, this, of course, means we're talking about manufacturing, also distribution, building supply, retail, and automotive companies. Epicor is over $1 billion in annual revenue, headquartered in Austin, Texas, and serves over 23,000 customers worldwide. So my colleague, Josh Roberts, he has over 15 years experience in the manufacturing industry. In his role as Regional Vice President of Sales, he leads the Epicor Kinetic sales team for the Western region of the United States. He lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he is about to graduate with his MBA from the Carlson School of Management with the University of Minnesota. Now, I'm very excited about this conversation today because Josh brings such a wealth of experience and perspective, given that he's speaking with manufacturing business leaders every day. So let's get to it. Josh, welcome and thank you for joining the show.
Awesome, Kerrie. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
All right. Well, as we get started, first, let's get to know you. Share maybe what is a typical day like and what brought you to your current role at Epicor?
Oh, I take a big sigh when I hear what a typical day is like. So it's a typical day is that it's not typical at all. And we'll kind of start there. And what I mean by that is my team at Epicor, I oversee a sales group of 24 different people, and it consists of people that are working with companies that are out there in the manufacturing space evaluating different ERP solutions or just technology in general, and trying to find if there's something that can help their organization achieve whatever it is that they're trying to go towards. Another part of my team is actually our existing customer base, and that's the ones in the manufacturing realm where I get to invest quite a bit of time in learning how they're using not just Epicor solutions, but technology in general, and how they've grown from where they were when they originally started partnering with Epicor to where they are today, or just from their inception in manufacturing to where they are today. And so it varies very differently in the type of conversation I'm having. But one thing that is overlapping on both of them is how companies are looking at future trends in manufacturing. I think we all know that technology changes in the blink of an eye anymore. I swear, it's like yesterday when I first started at Epicor, I was 22 and out of school, and now here I am, 40 years old, on my 15th or 16th year at Epicor. It just flies by like that. But so do the trends that are taking place just in the last year in manufacturing. So a big part of my day is learning more about what manufacturers are doing today, how they're utilizing technology, what kind of trends are coming down. And it's my responsibility to make sure I understand what those things are and really what it means in a real world environment for not only our customers, but hopefully our future customers. And then being able to translate that into what Epicor does with enterprise software to help my team be armed with the knowledge to go to our customers and our potential new customers and help solve their problems for them. So a big part of my day spent on that.
Yeah, so you didn't get to the regional vice president role right away. In those years that you were with Epicor, what was your journey?
It was a fun journey. So I started off, as I mentioned, right out of school when I was 22 years old as a business development rep at Epicor. I'm originally from Iowa. So ironically enough, I'd never been to Minnesota until my junior year of college. I came with a group of friends up here to watch an Iowa versus Minnesota Gophers football game and absolutely fell in love with the Twin Cities. So I said, that's where I'm going to go when I graduate college. Literally the day that I graduated college, my dad and I loaded up a trailer and we drove up to Minneapolis. And I had an apartment, so it wasn't like we were driving up there and looking for one, but I had an apartment there and wanted to find a job. And so I reached out to some recruiters that I knew through some connections that placed me at Epicor as a business development rep. And if you've never done it before, it's a very, very interesting job where you pick up the phone and just start calling all day long.
Wow. What did you learn from that type of role?
I learned that I knew nothing about manufacturing. That's what I learned. And I also learned how to take somebody hanging up on me.
Yeah, that's like trial by fire.
It is. It's interesting, but you also get to it's a great way of learning not just how to talk to people on the phone and be resilient when things don't go your way, but also it forces you to learn a lot about the space itself in manufacturing and technology. And it helped open the door to what I did next, which was become a customer account manager at
Oh.
Epicor. And that is really what propelled me to start learning more about manufacturing and visiting our customers and just finding out, what does manufacturing mean? What do they care about? And I laugh at the knowledge that I had back then versus what I do now is night and day, knowing
I,
what I know now.
I can imagine. So why did you stick with it? I'm curious because that is a long time, especially starting out, as you said, like, needing to really learn. What made you stay with it?
Well, it was dumb luck, actually. So growing up in a small town in Iowa, a lot of people that I knew and families of those people that I knew worked in manufacturing companies. There's a couple big manufacturing companies just outside of my hometown in Marengo, Iowa. And so manufacturing, although I didn't know much about it, I had a general idea of what manufacturing was. And so landing at Epicor and by dumb luck falling into technology sales, it really intrigued me to stay in that space. And it got so much so that I actually moved into the distribution vertical at Epicor and started selling our wholesale distribution product because I wanted to get that whole complete picture on the supply chain as to how distributors work with manufacturers in different industries and things like that. And so that really helped me get kind of that taste for ERP. And Epicor has always been that company that, because I have spent some time at Oracle as well for a couple of years. What I liked about Epicor before and when I came back is that direct touch that we have with our customers, where some of the larger companies don't have, and even some of the smaller companies don't have. So it was really a place that I got to grow and learn not only the technology side of what ERP is and other systems that people are using, but really being able to interact with the customers directly, which I don't think is the case at every company, at least not to the level of detail that I got to.
Yeah, and I can imagine how a learning mindset and then a customer focused mindset really serves you, I bet, in what you do today. So I definitely want to ask you about that. When you are having conversations these days with manufacturing business leaders, what are some of the things that are sort of top of mind for them?
It's funny because they're all saying the same thing. And I'll start by saying AI is a concept that a lot of people are starting to talk about. They have been talking about for a while, but they're talking much more about it now in ways that they actually understand how it would be applied towards them. But take that aside, everyone is talking about reskilling and upscaling their talent. And what I mean by that is just the other day, a couple weeks ago, I was over in Wisconsin visiting with a company that was evaluating ERP. And I got to know them quite well. And thankfully, they picked up Epicor and are going to start their implementation here soon. But they were telling me how difficult it is to find talent, welders, people like that in their area that wanted to work. And so they relied heavily on robotics. And it was a very neat plant floor that I got to walk through and saw a lot of these robots that are doing these welds, that are bending material or metal, that are doing a lot of these tasks that people would have done in the past. And it's not that they're replacing jobs, there's not enough jobs to fill. And those who no longer want to, let's just say, be welders, or if they are being replaced in some capacity, they're reskilling them to learn how to utilize and program these robots. And so they're doing a lot of education on new tools and sending people to new classes to get reeducated on stuff that they didn't learn or know before. And so they're really utilizing their talent the best they can. And what this customer told me that really stood out was, we have to invest in these robots to keep up with the demand. There's not enough people. And even if we did hire them, training them has become a challenge because we haven't been able to document our processes, our procedures, and have a standard training mechanism to onboard people. So training's a big thing right now.
That's interesting because What that says to me is that these kinds of challenges can sort of manifest in a couple different ways. You mentioned there's so much demand. You mentioned a lack of talent in their local region. What are some other ways that these challenges like might manifest as, things that are occurring within the business that might then like trigger them to say, oh, maybe there's a challenge here we need to go solve for. Maybe there's an opportunity that we need to go solve for. What are some of the ways in which it can show up in the business?
Yeah, there's a company here local in the Twin Cities. That's another customer of ours that I went out and visited, and they've been a customer for a long time.
Mhm.
And any person who would call into them from Epicor, they would probably hear from the customer, yeah, things are going great. We utilize Epicor. But I went out and actually visited with them and found out that they're not really utilizing a lot of the software. Now, take the software aspect about it. It's because they've had a tremendous amount of turnover in their organization. And they're struggling in not just taking on new business, but staying where they are because the new people that they're bringing on board they don't really have any type of training material or any type of way to get these people up to speed. And if they did get them up to speed on the systems and technology that they use, it's the wrong way of using those things. So they're really looking at us now as a partner to say, hey, I appreciate you coming out here and visiting with me. Let me tell you what's going on in our company right now, the challenges that we're having, and we're looking towards you as our partner to help us in some capacity either relearn the tools that we have in place today, how can we re-educate our customers, and put us in the position that in 6 months to a year from now, we're humming a lot more than what we are today. That would allow us not only to service our customers better, but now we can start diving into new opportunities because we have tools to document those and train people on them, reskill them, and put people in positions that they can be in. These things are happening all the time.
So, what other examples? Because it's really interesting to hear you say, like, "Oh, I went to visit this customer, and this is what I learned from them." What other things are you learning when you go and meet with these organizations? And it could even be things like, maybe they have this software, or maybe they're not leveraging the technology in different ways, and you can recommend to them, oh, maybe something like this could help solve that challenge you have.
Yeah. Data, data. I've never heard people talk about data more than I have today. And every one of them tells me too, our data's crap, but it's important that we figure out what kind of data we need. So these companies are looking towards the future right now, and they know AI is here to stay. And they've already kind of looked at ways that they could utilize AI in different capacities, whether it's connecting to machines and gathering data off that, whether it's just looking at past historical information that they have in other systems or knowledge that people have in their heads. They're looking at ways, how do we structure this now? We have no clue. We don't have the talent here, we don't have the resources, but we know that Epicor has been investing in technology. You're talking about AI, help us out. And so a lot of them are looking just for information on what should we be doing right now? Should we be taking this data and scrubbing it? Should we be working and understanding what a data lake is versus a data warehouse? Should we be hiring certain specialists? We have all this stuff today. What do we do with it? Because if we don't do something soon and have a foundation or a backbone in place, it doesn't matter what new technology is coming in the future because we're not going to be able to keep up with it. And that's a common conversation we're having with people. And so it's really changed how I've asked our sellers to work with potential new customers and even our existing customer base of being not a salesperson, but an information provider and challenging them saying, ERP might be a tool that you can use if it's done the right way and it's the backbone underneath your strategy, then we can start talking about how some of these other things, like a data strategy, can be layered on top of that. And how once you get that in place, you're now able to take advantage of all these different things, whether it's connecting to devices, whether it's pulling data off of a machine that you're running or historical information that you're coming from, buying data. By setting this up and informing people that it's more than just ERP, I think is a difficult conversation to have. And it's a challenge that we've been tasked with of informing our team on how to have those conversations and set the right expectations for people.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so on the show, we do like to talk about technology, and I'm glad you're kind of mentioning the variety of different technologies that you see organizations looking to evaluate, potentially invest in to solve challenges such as data completeness, cleanliness, readiness for AI. You mentioned ERP. You were also talking about upskilling and reskilling and robotics, of course. What are some of the technologies maybe that organizations are investing in or evaluating today and thinking about in order to solve for these challenges?
Yeah, there's a huge investment in technology that helps with documenting processes and procedures,
Oh, yeah.
onboarding new people. Acquisitions happen all the time now.
Hmm.
I met with a company that was private equity owned, and one of the big drivers for them was how do we pick the right ERP partner that not only helps us today, but helps us grow, but also allows us to take on new acquisitions and quickly onboard not just the company to the best practices that we're documenting and moving forward with, but also work instructions, training material, things that don't have anything to do with technology, but we need to document right now so we can bring people on faster and quicker. And so Epicor actually invested in a company called Acadia. And as I'm learning more about that tool, because it's a very recent acquisition, that's the type of technology that I see being talked about in every single interaction that we had, whether it's existing customer base, new customers out there, or just any manufacturer, distributor, retailer out there. How do we better document stuff? Because the more that you document and the more efficiencies you have, the more that data driven strategy is really going to start coming into play with AI because you have repeatable processes and procedures that gets you the data that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I can imagine as organizations, as you said, are going through a lot of acquisitions, bringing on new team members, new technologies that they need to learn, or maybe new processes on the shop floor, having those work instructions ready to go, I imagine would really help manufacturers get those new employees up and running very quickly and creating value for the organization. So that's great. I also wanted to ask you about benefits. You know, as you're working with organizations and maybe some time has gone by after they've made an investment in technology, I would love to understand what some of the value that they are achieving. Because when it comes to making an investment like this, of course, these organizations are going to need to make a business case, understand the ROI, at least estimate it and have an idea as to what they're working towards to justify the investment.